Experience counts a lot.
Yeah, experience तो है, but अब वो energy levels नहीं है.
नहीं तो should we mute the video also?
I think Saurabh will give you instructions. And this Kumar is which Kumar? Our Bits Kumar?
So we just start.
Sorry, who's that?
So we just started.
Yeah, okay.
Good evening, everyone. Namaste. Welcome to the live webinar series on focus on rural economy post COVID-19, an untapped source of jobs, growth, and development by Youth for Good Governance. The topic for the day 4 of the web dialogue: building rural entrepreneurs and creating pro-poor value chain, challenges, scopes, and future roadmaps. Today, we are extremely happy and delighted to have with us a very special person. He is known as the father of rural marketing, Mr. Pradeep Kashyap, founder of MART. And we also have with us Mr. Ramesh, Jena, CEO of MART. Mr. Pradeep Kashyap graduated with a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from BITS Vidani in 1969. He is a founder and chief executive officer of MART. He is recognized as the face of the rural industry. Mr. Kashyap is known as the father of rural India. He gave up a successful corporate career at age 40 to devote his life for improving the quality of life of rural poor. He started Gramasri Melas in 1989 on behalf of Ministry of Rural Development for sale of rural products in cities. He also co-created the world-famous project Shakti with Unilever, which is also a case study in Harvard. He created a collective marketing model with 10,000 tribal women in Orissa. Mr. Kashyap co-created Project Arogya with Novartis to address TB in rural India using local youth as health entrepreneurs, which won several national and international awards. He co-created a public-private partnership communication pay-per-use model with HP Gas, which won several national awards. Mr. Kashyap has pioneered new concept of inclusive marketing, 3M model of livelihoods promotion, 3I approach to innovate, and participatory research tool, which are recognized globally and adopted by many NGOs and donors companies. Mr. Kashyap was honored with the Lifetime Achievement Award in 2013 by Rural Marketing Association of India. He was honored by Star News with the Talented Management Leader 2011 award. He was chosen for the Spandan Award 2011 for inculcating human values in management. He is a recipient of the Jamanalal Bajaj Award 1991 for his outstanding contribution to rural development. In recognition of his knowledge leadership, he was invited to serve on Prime Minister Office and Chief Minister Committee on Employment Generation in the informal sector. Welcome, sir. We are really happy to have you with us in today's session.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Saurabh.
Thank you, sir. Also, we have with us Mr. Ramesh Jena. He is the CEO of MART. Mr. Jena is a management graduate in business entrepreneurship management from EDII Ahmedabad, PGDM from CAMS, and Masters in Commerce from Utkal University. He has also done a master's trainer course on TVET training, vocational education, and skill development with Edexcel Pearson, London. He is having more than 20 years of experience specializing in project management, consulting, strategy, formulation, advisory, providing large-scale implementation support to bilateral and multilateral projects for government, corporate, and CSR in the domain of livelihood promotion, agri promotion, marketing, sustainability, and impacting communities at the bottom of the pyramid. He has facilitated a number of training programs for the social sector professionals, private and government officials on sustainable livelihoods and marketing business model, innovation, project management, etc. So welcome. We are really happy to have both of you today on our webinar. So with this, we would just like to say that this was a very small platform which a few of the young professionals who are from the development background thought of creating. And the reason we felt that we should create this kind of platform is mainly because we feel from our experience that there is a need of information literacy in citizenship and government work. And also there should be a space for dialogue on good governance, and especially at this crucial juncture where we are and we will be heading to a new normal. We need to have a very different approach to look at governance and the various developmental works associated with governance processes in this country. And also taking reference from our theme, we think that there should be a call for new models, tools, and approaches. And all these approaches will require lots of focus on social accountability and citizen participation. And that's what we are trying to achieve step by step through webinars and successively through some kind of real work on the ground. So, sir, to start with, if I can ask you a brief about the MART's pro-poor value chain development frame and its significance with the call for self-reliant India. Over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Saurav. And both Ramesh and I are very happy to be here. You know, the single biggest challenge that this country is facing today is creating enough jobs for our population, for our young people who are joining the workforce. And this problem has got further compounded with COVID and the reverse migration. MART has just completed a study on reverse migration. And what we find is that 25% of the people who have returned back to their villages have no intentions of going back to their jobs in the big cities. So we will now have to provide employment for these 25% additional population, which will join the rural areas. And the bigger challenge is that almost all of them who are going to stay back are not skilled. They are the unskilled part of the migrant workforce, because the skilled people will not find gainful employment in rural India. So they will, for force, have to go back to the big cities, to the factories and whatever else. So what I'll do is that I'll just take 5 or 7 minutes sort of to first just set the context. And then Ramesh will take over and talk about the pro-poor value chains and also about our collective marketing models. So in 27 years since MART started, we have created about 2 lakh, that is about 200,000 sustainable livelihoods for the poor. Project Shakti, which you mentioned, created 50,000 poor women entrepreneurs in rural India. And this project was run in 2000 to 2005. And even 15 years later, most of the women continue to be entrepreneurs. We have created another 50,000 employment through the collective marketing model, which Ramesh will describe once he takes over. And during my conversation, I will also describe very briefly Project Shakti. And finally, we have created 1 lakh, that is 100,000 employment through the Gram Shri Melas that I started. And we will talk about that also as we go along in the context. So what I would like to do here is first, sort of for the benefit of young people like you and others who are there, is based on our 27 years of work. And this is the most challenging sector. You know, you look at NGOs, they work in environment, they work in health, they work in education. They're not dealing with the market, the competitive forces. It is only livelihoods and enterprises where this challenge comes up. And believe you me, MART is the only agency that provides support for livelihoods creation, as also support for marketing. There are agencies like Pradhan and others who provide support for livelihoods creation, but not for marketing, because that's how you make these enterprises sustainable. So the first, so I'm going to give a set of 6-7 guiding principles, right, based on our experience. The first is that you need to adopt a business mind social heart. What do I mean by that? That when you're dealing with the poor, you have to empathize with them, you have to support them, but you have to keep the market realities in mind. So it cannot happen where NGOs, when they're working with groups and these groups are producing something, I found year after year for all these years that NGOs are very soft. They will say, oh, if the market is paying 5 rupees for making this petticoat, we will give you 10 rupees, right? So with the result that their products become uncompetitive in the market because their prices go way above. So that's the first principle. And this is also for another reason that creating livelihoods in rural India is far more difficult than creating livelihoods in urban India. Therefore, you need a very strong business sense to be able to do it. That's why my mantra has been all these 30 years that I've been in this sector is a business mind. So I apply whatever I've learned with multinationals, but my heart is with the poor. So it has to be this combination. The second is that group enterprises per se do not, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Yeah,
Yes,
okay,
sir.
okay, sorry, because the visuals have gone. Okay, so group enterprises are by and large not successful because people don't take responsibility, they shirk their responsibility, and therefore the enterprise finally collapses. But there is a variant of this group enterprise, which is where production is done at an individual level and the marketing and branding and packaging is done in the collective model. And the best example of that is Amul. 4 million farmers produce milk individually and then bring it to Amul, and Amul does the processing, the product development, the packaging, the distribution, marketing, and all of that. Another example would be Lijjat, where Lijjat procures all the raw materials from designated sources so that the quality is consistent across the world. So they will get their hing only from Jammu. They will get their urad ki dal only from Indore, like that. But the dough, when it is made, individual women come and take as much as they want to roll, and they are paid for it. And then the marketing is done again in a collective mode. So that's the second one. The third guiding principle is that the market must decide what the group or what kind of jobs or what kind of enterprise should be started. Unfortunately, again, very often NGOs make the mistake. They say, oh, you possess these skills, so therefore we will start something around the skills. But ultimately, you have to sell in the market. So if there is no demand in the market, you could be producing a Rolls Royce, but where people can't afford a Maruti, then it doesn't help. So that's point number 3. Point number 4 is where you work in government programs, World Bank supported programs, DFID supported programs, and MART has worked on many, many such programs as state level consultants to these programs. And very often the bureaucrat says that you start making this because we have prisons and we can buy all the masalas from your groups and all that. But remember, the minute that bureaucrat gets transferred, the whole thing collapses. So what we have to remember is that livelihoods are created in the market and not in the offices of bureaucrats. Number 5 is that whatever pilot we do, it should be with the intention of scale up. So we must keep the scalability in our minds. And here I will bring in Project Shakti to briefly describe to you. Unilever wanted to, distribute their products deeper into the smaller villages. They didn't have a business model because as you go deeper, the order size becomes smaller, but the cost of reaches goes higher. So therefore, the business economics doesn't work. So they approached us, and we decided to work through self-help groups. So we said from each group, we will identify one woman who's the most enterprising. She'll be trained to become an entrepreneur. So she will become the dealer for Unilever brands to be sold in and around her village. So why did we select a woman from the group? Because we said we'll be able to scale this model across the country because self-help groups exist all over the country. Okay? The second reason was Unilever had a policy that purchases had to be on cash basis. Okay? And they said the minimum order placement will have to be 20,000 rupees. Now, these poor women won't have 20,000 rupees with them. But because they are members of a microfinance group, they could take a loan from the group or from the bank and then go and buy goods worth 20,000 rupees in one go and sell. And most of these women have doubled their income. So remember that scalability is possible only if you build that into your pilot. Point number 6 is we must prepare proper business plans, including competition, what is their pricing, what kind of quality are they producing, because we have to survive in the market. The next point is that the biggest problem that NGOs, artisans, everybody faces is the challenge of marketing. And that was the reason when I was marketing advisor to the ministry, I started these Gram Shri Melas, which are marketing platforms, because most of the products made by artisans are for consumption in urban India. So carpets and dharis and more exquisite items. Now, these people don't have the reach to come to city markets. So Gram Shri Mela provided that platform in cities. We ran these melas in 75 cities of India. Okay? And that has created an employment of another 1 lakh people. And at these melas, we used to organize workshops for design by getting the best designers from NID. We used to run workshops on packaging to improve and make it more attractive. So we got experts from the Indian Institute of Packaging, right? And similarly, costing and pricing, we used to get experts to talk about it. Then how to understand consumer tastes and their preferences. So we got IMRB and others, research agencies to come and guide these artisans how to do very simple level research. Okay? And the last point I want to make is that very often we think that, oh, we'll start production and we start exporting. Remember one thing, that when people are doing some activity for the first time, their skill levels are very low. So they cannot afford to sell in export markets, which expect the best quality. Okay? So this is a gradual process. We must start feeding the local market. So that should be our first level market. And then only we should move to the city markets. And many years later, we can then talk about exporting those products, because you also need production capacity. See, when an export house places an order for rugs or anything, they will not ask for 5 or 10, they'll ask for 500. So we have to have that capacity. Okay? So this is the background that I wanted to set up so that we're all clear that, setting a pro-poor value chain is not something that comes out of nowhere. You have to understand the basic principles of enterprise creation. Okay? So with that, I will hand over to Ramesh, who will now make a presentation on these very issues. And then we can have a question and answer session. And I am not getting anybody's visual.
Only the person who are talking will get visuals. Sir.
Oh,
So,
okay, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Ramesh, sir, you can start with the presentation.
Yeah, thank you, sir. And good to so thank you for Governance India for inviting us for sharing our models and the project interventions. So I'll open this PPT.
And will we be able to see the PPT, Saurabh?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You'll be able to.
Okay.
Because it is showing that host disabled participant screen sharing.
You can try now. I think you'll be able to.
No, we are not able to see as yet.
Yeah.
I'll just make a change.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still can't see it.
Yeah, it is visible. You can see it.
Is it visible?
Yes, it is visible to me.
Yeah, now it is coming visible.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'll highlight two different interventions of value chain based intervention of MART and in recent projects and with one model called collective marketing. And then prior to that, Sir rightly highlighted that MART has supported in particularly social sectors 23 multilateral bilateral project which was supported by DFID, IFR, JICA or WP kind of clients in 15 states. And we have created many addresses the poverty issues with many states as a large scale implementation agency as a project management agency. So the uniqueness of MART is that because we are addressing with both the sector, corporate as well as the development sector. So in social sector, we know that what are the issues is basically facing by the community, poorest of the poor communities and our target group and how that can be linked with the higher order markets. And in corporate also, we are supporting how that product will penetrate into rural. So that is the uniqueness to MART. So I will highlight one value chain intervention of one project called Odisha Forest Sector Development Project. This is a project implemented by Forest and Environment Department, Government of Odisha, and supported by JICA. And the project was our role was income generation activity support agency. The operational area was 9 forest divisions, and the 2 years timeline. The target groups were self-help groups and the from the BSS because one BSS is one villages. So 3,000 SSG from 1,500 Bana Sangrakshana Samiti was the target groups. And we have undertaken for two kind of intervention. One was the small income generation activity, and another was the cluster level activities. So prior to selection of that activity, we have conducted a detailed feasibility and viability assessment study. When we are saying that the feasibility assessment, because all of our model, MART is having a model of 3M user manuals that talks about how to select right kind of activity, keeping in mind the supply possibilities and the demand pattern. When we are saying the feasibility, that talk about the raw material resources availability, the support services, the skill, interest level of the communities, and that with the markets. So all our models are basically are the market driven models. So based on these things, the feasibility and viability, and we suggested that this activity can be taken up for towards the implementation. Under this small IGA of that project, there are 6 steps we followed. One was the identification of the group who want to take up this activity, then selection of for the right kind of income generation activity, preparation of a business plan for them, providing handling support towards initiation of this activity.
I think sir got disconnected.
No, I'm there.
No. Ramesh sir presentation
Oh.
got disconnected.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
it was right. Is it visible now?
Presentation is not visible.
Yeah.
Yes, now it is.
Yeah.
Yes, like cluster IG also in the cluster validation, then initiation of activity, business plan preparation, market linkages. So that was under that cluster level activity. We have promoted 42 product-based clusters covering up 9 different kind of product. Like when I am saying that different product, like suppose from CLE leaf to CLE plate, tamarind to tamarind cane. This kind of cluster we have promoted under that project. Yeah, I will share one study of this intervention. One of the cluster called Maize cluster, which was a value chain based intervention along with the market collective marketing model. So this case study will highlight with both that the project area was the same in Ramgiri area of Gajapati districts in Odisha, where the project target communities, they were mostly for the wage laborers, and they used to work with nearby fields. And so the first time we mobilized them to sharing the concept and then converting into a group, a 12 members group along with covering of 5 villages and 197 members. Then this intervention address both starting from pre-production, production, post-production, marketing and post-marketing, and even harvesting. So in that process, we cover first time the cultivation with the support of these cluster members in an area of 417 acres of land. And on an average, the yield was 12 acres per 12 quintal per acre, and that goes to 5,310 quintal of yield. And it was basically intensive support provided by MART. And under this pre-production stage, we have prepared a business plan of 15 lakhs and a 4.5 lakhs support provided by the project and 10.5 lakhs from the own contribution by these SAG members. And we have successfully linked with the RKVY for getting the subsidized and seed when the price was 32 rupees, and we have successfully linked with 17 rupees. It was a pioneer and Hisel variety. And then all business knowledge training and exposure, it was facilitated by MART with the support and with the best package of practices through KBK, Agriculture Department and others. So like small kind of intervention while interaction with this thing, and then facilitating training program, the experts share that if suppose they will go for 120 days crop, then there will be possibility for increase the yield potential. So in that process, it was a on an average we got a yield of 12 quintal per acre. And a small kind of intervention like in gunny bag, so packing of this product after harvesting, when the local price was 16 rupees per kg, and we have a link with a 90-kilometer distance market, the price that time 11.5 rupees. So in the first intervention, 70,000 gunny bag at the rate of the cost saving of rupees 4.5 rupees, that has boosted the confidence level of these communities. And then we have we realized that at the 45 truckload of this product, because the volume was 5310 quintals, and it's very difficult to sell the product at the local level. So in that process, we have mapped with the corporate player, and finally Godrej Agrovet, we have identified the term and condition, and then they offer the best price. When the local price was 9.5 rupees per kg, they offer 13.75 rupees. It was a challenge for us because of the project, because this was the government project, the community, the first time entrepreneurs, and all kind of risk have taken by us, because in each and every aspect, starting from mobilization to the decision making process, we involve with this community, because our objective was to how to link with the higher order market or institutional level players, so that at least the system, the middleman and other, those who basically exploited or offer at a very lesser price, so how to break that change. So in that process, we learn number of things, like suppose they told earlier what happened, that the local middleman and other, they used to deduct 2 kg as a local deduction. But in the corporate like Godrej Agrovet kind of players, there was no deduction. And there are certain like a minimum moisture content should be 12%, then no donkey or black spot kind of things. So we have sensitized this thing after the interaction and exposure visit by this Godrej Agrovet player. So the interesting thing that this slide will highlight this will be the total intervention in a cluster covering of 5 villages, 12 SSG, and the total turnover goes to 71 lakh rupees. When the business plan preparation was 15 lakhs, and within a period of 4 months, the turnover goes to 71 lakhs. And with a profit of 22,000 plus rupees, every household got this thing, and we have divided to the total, because 71 minus this business plan cost. So it was a huge impact created at one cluster level. So based on that experience and learning, they have in the second year, they have expanded to 417 acre of land to 1050 acre of land. So this, and then it was an example for this project, and then after that, the project has replicated into 5 forest division, because our intervention was for 9 forest division. So under this value chain project, I want to highlight here that MART has conducted more than 40 product detailed value chain study for various clients, starting from product like agriculture, horticulture, non-timber, forest produce, and non-farm product. And based on this value chain experience, and we are very comfortable into this market facilitation, and then with creating a proper value chain development model. So this talks about that those how the producer, primary producer or collection of the non-timber forest produce, and to the end user. So there are a number of channels and number of activities are there, but focus in their value chain intervention, where is the intervention point, so that the community can target community can get better price. So this is a pyramid, typical pyramid, and available at everywhere. This is, if you see this pyramid, almost there are different ladders. There are the raw produce, minimum value addition, semi-finished product, and finished product. So 90, based on our experience, 90% are the product is basically dealing at the raw stage. And minimum value addition, where if suppose they are dealing in a low stage, huge volume is there, and there is a margin of getting 10 to 15% of incremental price if they can only facilitate with the market. And then if suppose they'll go for a minimum value addition kind of thing, like sorting, storing, drying, or this kind of things, then that is a also percentage of certain incremental price. But very few percentage of the product is dealing at the finished or semi-finished state, where the incremental price percentage is more, but there are lots of risk here, because they cannot compete with the other markets. So this is the based on this thing, and we realize that that the primary producer or collector, they are facing lots of difficulties for addressing the marketing issues. And then for this thing, then we have started a collective marketing intervention of a DFID project in the year of 2005. That what are the issues individually selling? So those who are having 50 kg or 1 quintal of the product, they used to sell to the middleman. It was exploitation by them, distress sale. Then the payments had no cash transaction. It credit take place almost 3 to 4 weeks. So addressing this thing, then we have started this thing collective marketing model. This collective marketing model, it talks about that there are based on our experience, and we have successfully implemented in 7-8 states. This talk, the first step is that need to map to the marketable surplus after the consumption, the marketable surplus, and then this is the simple model. Need to map to the product volume, and then map to the market end. So if suppose one village is having 100 household, and if suppose one somebody is having 1 quintal of product, if you will multiply, it will be huge. And then simultaneously need to map to the market player, and then facilitation this thing, and definitely there is a possibility for getting the incremental price at a different level. So in our experience said that if only for we will mobilize this product or aggregate this thing, then ensuring to the economies of scale, there is a possibility for getting 5 to 10% of incremental income, and that will directly goes to the producer. And then they will go for simple drying, cleaning, sorting, packaging without any changing form of value addition. Then there is a possibility for getting 5 to 10% incremental price. And if they will link directly with the bigger level markets, so 5% on institutional linkages with the corporate player or institutional player, so there is a possibility for getting another 5%. So in that, based on our this experience, there is a possibility for getting 20% to 30% incremental income. Based on that will vary from product to product. Like a product like cashew, there is a huge volume, but profit margin is little less. But where product like other tamarind and kind of thing, their percentage is very high. So in this process, MART has successfully replicated this model to 2,500 tribal villages in the state like Jharkhand, Gujarat, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Odisha, and other states with the multilateral bilateral project, and covering up a 50,000 women members from the various groups, common interest group, producer group of 4,500, and the turnover goes to 60 crores on an average incremental income. They got 18%. So the learning or the benefit from this collective marketing due to this intervention created a competitiveness at the village level. So because earlier what happened, they used to sell their product at the only one middleman at the village point or that point. But due to this competitiveness, so 3 to 4 players are ready, and who will offer the better price, then community can negotiate that and then sell this product. Then earlier the fair owing system was not there. Most of the product are basically sold through high estimation basis. So we have then with a better price realization by this thing, and then due to this intervention, though they are having the volume, they have successfully linked with the remunerative market. So these are the benefits of the collective marketing intervention. So now I will highlight one of our another intervention, because the OFSDP experience was basically a for the target communities where the tribal forest people, less exposure to market, lack of risk taking ability, and for them it was a very difficult, because they used to involve only for their livelihood for the collection of non-timber forest produce or wage laborers. But this project is another kind of intervention where, because of this intervention, sustainable livelihood promotion for the rehabilitate peoples. Particularly, this is the area where the mines of the project, when the mines came to that area, they have rehabilitated to other colonies, a new setup. Earlier, what happened, their primary occupation was agriculture and allied sector related activity, even certain pockets where NTP was there also primary source of livelihood. But they, due to this intervention, they have lost their land, they have lost their home, and they have shifted to another new colony. So for us, they got a house from the project side, and it was a state PSU, and they got a very good compensation. But what happened, though they are the tribals and a mixed group, and on an average, they got 40 to 50 lakhs of rupees every household. Uh, but initially phase, after disbursement of that money, they purchase either four-wheeler, bolero, two-wheelers, and this kind of thing. That client realized that if suppose this fund will not meaningfully utilize, maybe tomorrow the pressure will come to the company that at least ensuring the job. So in that then they approach MART, and the objective of this project is to involvement of these displaced families into various income generation activities and utilization of the productive utilization of their received compensation money. And with the doubling, the target is to doubling the household baseline income of these displaced families. Because for us, this is a 5 years assignment. And then for us, the challenge is that because we have started this from the zero, because they don't have any kind of enterprising activity, only the past experience of that kind of activity. Only they were involved in agriculture land, because due to this displacement, that land, they lose that land, and even that NTP kind of things. So the process we followed, that first the mobilizing this community, then creating rapport with them, conducted a study for this using what kind of alternative option for them based on their skill set, interest level, and then fund, because fund was not a constraint for that, but marketing was a challenge. If any kind of activity they will start, they have to at least start from zero level and to face to the competition. And then we have facilitated the training exposure kind of things, then preparation of business plan, handling support, and like this. So our approach, we follow this approach for the two kind of activity, mostly 240 households. The target was that every household member should be involved with various kind of activity, but target is to doubling their baseline income. So then also certain activities we have promoted through group base with the youth, those who are basically age of 18 to 35 age group. We identified their skill set, and based on then that we have engaged with certain skill imparting institution, and then motivated them towards starting their either self-employment or job employment. Then institutional linkages with the various social security scheme, because few of the members are the senior citizens, convergence with the various line department for getting that program and scheme benefits, like this. So the certain activities are individual based activities are promoted based on their skill set and with the interest level and the market feasibility. And what are the key learnings of that intervention? Then we found that the selection of appropriate business activity through feasibility assessment is the most crucial. And the focus market-led intervention with efficient backward and forward linkages. Intensive and active involvement of the beneficiary is necessary during each stage of the promotion to bring the sense of ownership among them. Without, because they are having money, there are two kind of in our earlier project, these people are having skill set, but they don't have money. But here this project, they are having surplus money, lakh of rupees or surplus money are there, but their interest level was zero. So we have started the effort from zero level and start with the product creating to local market, and then diversify product into bigger market. The more focus was to product development and process improvement about that, and social welfare activities on a parallel basis to help creating the social bonding of this kind of activity. And under this process, we have successfully, and because this is a 5 years project and 3 years already completed, and certain of the 29% of households, we have increased their income up to four times, because our target was double. And so now we are into a comfortable zone for at least achieving our desired result. So based on these two kind of intervention, and then based on the Saurav's the point and the expectation that sir highlighted about this the reverse migrant issue, the our last webinar, and based on this thing, because that is a hot topic now, every state government and central government is worried about how to meaningfully engage with these migrant workers. So for them, what should be the alternative options and opportunity for this target respondent. So I'll take with 2 slides about this thing from our recent study. So because this prior to our the 4th of this month webinar, so we have conducted a study. The study findings say that 120 million migrant workers out of 497 million workforce in India. So that means this is the 1 out of 4 is a migrant worker in the total workforce. So if you will say that 497 million workforce, so that is the equivalent to the population of Japan. And the interesting fact is that the finding is that out of these 120 million migrant workers, 65 millions are the interstate migration. And mostly the sources states are the UP, Bihar, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, and Odisha. And destination states are Delhi, Maharashtra, Gujarat, Haryana, Punjab, and Karnataka. The biggest employer, construction sector, textile, agriculture, domestic work, etc. So now this is the 2 interesting scenario. One is that region for out migration and a region for reverse migration. Because why I am saying this, sharing this finding, there is a link to the what kind of activity can be suggested for these reverse migrant workers. That this finding says that because 49% of these migrant workers, they are particularly gainful migration, because 2 kind of migration, gainful migration and distress migration, and 26% are the distress migration. If we putting together, 75% are the migrant workers are into both. But 14%, our findings say that 14% are the better job opportunities searching for other areas, and then 7% are traveling for their relative and others, and there is a 4% of the mix. So the interesting finding here is that prior to the lockdown, their average income was 11,000. But then their remittance out of this 11,000 remittance figure is average figure is coming 6,900. So now this is said that sir rightly said that because our study findings said that 25% of these migrant workers, they want to stay back at their native place, and the remaining 56% are they want to return to the earlier place, plus 19% also migrate to nearby. So that means this 75% they want to return to their earlier workplace, and 25% stay back at the native place. Now point is coming that if suppose 25% migrant workers is keen to work in their native place, what should be, what kind of basically their skill set? This says that the 40% of out of this 25% of this total migrant, reverse migrant, 40% they are engaged in farm related activities, followed by 31% are the skill like wage earners, and then 17% are the for daily wage laborers, and 12% certain percentage are the factory worker. So, and another interesting thing that because though their remittance figure was 6,900 average figure, but when we interact with these people, if suppose you want to stay at your native place, and what would be your expectation? And the figure was 6,600. Now we are coming to this thing. We should think about the intervention for this target the reverse migrant for minimum at least 6 to 7,000 kind of income they should ensure or assure. So now coming to this thing, there is a possible model for the livelihood intervention for this thing. One may be think for this one kind of intervention will be particularly for the coastal and the plain areas, and one may be for the forest, hilly and tribal areas. So this, but before suggesting this activity, that will be in my next slide, will say about the more detail. But at least two things is coming to my mind, that at least this migrant workers should be the readiness to engage in traditional livelihood of their native place, irrespective of work done by them at place of migration. And second, the preference for alternative livelihood for them. Then approach with that first need to be assess a rapid market assessment study to the mapping to their skill set. This study should be at least the district specific study to map that how many percentage are having high skills, semi skill, non skill and on skill kind of thing. And based on these things, then the second step would be the selection of various income generation activities based on their skill set and interest level. And then third will be the segmenting them, targeting and implementing of this activity based on this their profile. And fourth would be that building the capacity of this thing, and then starting for a cluster level activity, which can be that a maximum migrant worker can be meaningfully engaged. And certain activities may be based on our experiences, that these, suppose if the tribal communities or hilly areas, for them immediately can be engaged for MG NREJ kind of activities, or maybe because though they are for them goat rearing activities can be suggested, or maybe any other nutrition garden or medicinal plant kind of activities. For activities maybe in coastal areas, for these people agriculture based activity, non-farm based activity, or for the youth for different engaging with the various self-employment kind of activity, rather job employment. And in particularly for the coastal area, activity can be for dairy, poultry and pisciculture kind of activity. But that more clarity will call after this study. Then proactive steps should be for these migrant workers. One step would be creating opportunity awareness among these things, that then preparation of a database of these returnees, absorption into a convergence of various state government and central government schemes so that they can get benefit for this, ensuring basic social security of the governments, and then engaging with for the private and other players. So these are the basically certain based on our experience and the study you are proposing, this kind of activity can be taken up this thing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think that was a really informative session for us. And I think you have answered most of the questions which I was about to ask. So I would like to open the floor for the audience if they have any questions. Yeah. Any questions from the audience?
Okay, so that means that either people have understood everything or they've understood nothing.
Pradeep, small question for your company. Pradeep, this is Ravi Bhargav.
Yes, Ravi.
You have been helping all these people all the way around. How do they pay you back?
They don't pay us. These are two things. One is in terms of money, we get our consulting fee from the agency that is sponsored this program. So
Like agro.
No, like the World Bank. So we've done number of World Bank projects. So we work as state level consultants on the project, and each project will then have a budget of 500 crores or whatever it is, and out of that there will be assets created, there will be consultants who will be paid, there are regular staff because they create a whole infrastructure. So uh, we are paid like the others, as I said, salaried staff and other people. But if you ask me, how do these poor people pay us back? I think, that one smile on their face when they feel that they have come out of poverty and we've got our payment.
That's nice. Very nice.
So we have one question in the YouTube live that what are the key to making the community understand the importance of self-reliance through entrepreneurship and your experience in development entrepreneurs through MART?
Yeah, Ramesh, would you like to take that question? Ramesh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah. Saurabh, could you repeat that question
Sure,
for
sure.
Ramesh?
So
Are you there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
what's the
Yeah.
key to making the community understand the importance of self-reliance through entrepreneurship and your experience in developing entrepreneurship through MART?
Yeah, in the last 27 years, we have created many kind of similar kind of intervention for the different target groups. Our approach is we always believe into a approach to that working with this community to understand their issues, the challenges, and they should not feel that. But they should feel that MART is coming here for working for them. So for this thing, we have initially phase we invested lots of time, energy to building that rapport. Once, like suppose in my case study of OCPL project, when we entered that project, client told us that you should not uh, say that you are from OCPL side. Nowhere, because otherwise maybe the issue maybe arises. Because what happened when we entered that area, so we came to know that 5 6 months before they have at least break that this OCPL employee. So we have used our different strategy. We have given instruction that the first 3 months our approach should be to stay with them, and they should feel comfortable, and then gradually we can engage identifying certain 2 3 individuals starting certain activity based on their interest. And initially up to 2 years they have a strong resistance for us. Now after a certain promoted of number of activities, they now they are feeling that MART is there for at least addressing their issue and then improving their economic condition. So this is our basically different kind of approach and methodology used to follow to changing their socio-economic condition of this thing. And then I request sir if you can add certain other project experience, so that will be add value to this question.
No, very, very simply, I think the first step is to build trust with the community because we are outsiders, right? And that's what Ramesh rightly said, that you have to spend time with them and they have to feel that we are there for their benefit. That's point one. The second is how to assure them that entrepreneurship can work for them. Very often, we take these people to successful entrepreneurs in the neighborhood where we may have worked earlier or some other agency may have worked. And you see, when they interact with entrepreneurs from their own community and from similar socioeconomic backgrounds, then they feel much more confident. You're and my going and telling them that you can become an entrepreneur, don't worry, you can. It doesn't work. What works is when they see their own community people doing it, then and it's with all of us. So there is a process, and then of course you have to give inputs for them to become an entrepreneur, because an entrepreneur is not born; he has to be created.
So another question is, what is the relevance of skill data at the district level or the state level at this point of time?
Skill data.
Yes.
Yeah, because the skill will determine the kind of livelihoods that that person can get involved in. Because that is one step ahead. Because if I'm totally unskilled, then I can only work as farm wage labor, or I can work as construction labor. But if I want to get into entrepreneurship, then I must have some skill. So I may be a carpenter, I may be an electrician, I may be a painter. Then I can talk in terms of becoming self-employed. Yeah? So skill is a good skill to have, because that gets you started. Otherwise, the government has to then run you through the skill development program and provide you with some skill. But if you already have some skill, and believe you me that we are a Guru Shishya country. So the father used to teach the son carpentry or blacksmithy or leather work or whatever. We never had any formal systems. It's only now in the last 50 years that we've started talking about a formal system of skill development. But all through these centuries, it is passed on from father to son. So it is from Guru to Shishya.
So another question just come that although you have kind of touched upon that point. So he's asking that although the people are coming back to the village and they are not connected to SAGs in village. So under these circumstances, how do you say that this people will get connected to entrepreneurial activities without being associated with the SAGs?
No, I never said the migrant people will get connected to entrepreneurs.
No, he's asking that they are not. So how can they be involved?
Yeah, correct. As I mentioned, that the 25% migrant population that plans to stay back in the villages are the unskilled people. Okay, so now they cannot acquire skills overnight. So their first dependence will be on Narega, because Narega is about wage labor, just picking things and dropping them there. So it's physical work. Okay? No skill is required. So that will be point one. The second is, after agriculture, the largest employer in India is the construction sector. And majority of the jobs in the construction sector are labor. So you take a head load of bricks or cement or concrete or whatever. So that will be the next thing. It's going to be a huge challenge, mind you, for the government to try and create employment for these 25% people who stay back. So they will have to be provided the safety net of Narega or the construction sector, and the government will buy time to see how to skill these people. Or, as Ramesh rightly pointed out, that there are a number of potential income generating activities. So they can start a backyard poultry. They can buy a cow or a buffalo. Okay, government can provide loans or subsidy for it, so they can start producing milk. And milk has a great advantage that you get daily payment for the milk that you sell. So actually, rural India runs its houses from dairy and not from agriculture, because agriculture money comes in only 2-3 times when the harvest happens. Yeah? So dairy, poultry, piggery, there are many such local activities which don't require a high level of skill. It requires basic skill. So that's where they'll have to start.
Right. So if we don't have any other questions from the audience, yeah, sure, please.
Yeah, see, as I can see, It's the main activity would be around agriculture, and MART is active in most of the area which is flood prone. May say basically North India, Bihar, UP, and all that. So, what is your general strategy? Maybe it's related to government for having marketing during the flood period.
That's, those are only relief measures, so there is no marketing at that time. Uh, so I think the question should be that what sort of a relief package should the government have when floods happen? So we don't have really a role to play there, because we are coming in where there is a market intervention needed, or where there is marketing of some products or skills required. No? So see, remember, Ravi, that rural is a very vast and complex area.
Yeah.
I mean, we talk about agriculture, but even after 30 years, my understanding of agriculture is maybe 5% of what is the total knowledge around agriculture. Every crop has its own knowledge. Yeah? So then this flooding and check dams and water conservation, water management, interlinking of rivers. I love a lot of subjects. So I'm not competent to handle such a vast subject, and secondly, in any case, on this platform, it will get very involved and difficult to, make much progress.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah? So we can have an offline discussion the next time we meet.
Uh,
Yeah, please. Any other questions?
Saurabh, can I have a question
Sure,
from
sure.
sir?
Yeah.
Yes. So, like as we are talking about engaging migrant laborers, so how do you think that the government policy is well placed to generate more effective outcomes?
One, I think the government has already increased the NREGA budget by another 40,000 crore. Right? Earlier, the budget was about 60,000 crores. So they've increased the budget by at least 60, 70%. Yeah? So therefore, these migrant workers who are returning, they will certainly be able to feed their families if they get 10, 12 days of work. And the other thing is that some states have said that the minimum guaranteed number of days that NREGA wages should be available should be increased from 100 to 200. 200 in a year. So they have made it compulsory. And I also feel that that's what should happen, because there is no other source of income for these poor. It will take them quite some time to re-establish themselves in their own villages, because they've lost touch with what is happening there. For years, they were working in bigger cities and away from home. Right? So that is one. The second is, now that the agricultural reforms have happened, there'll be a number of things that will start happening around agriculture, and not only primary agriculture, but around food processing, which is going to emerge as a very big industry. Then private mandis coming up. Yeah? So a whole lot of more transportation of goods, because there'll be more produce. Yeah? So again, there are a lot of things that the government, I'm sure, is planning, because this is not our job. We can only give inputs to the government, but ultimately the government will have to come out with a master plan. And more importantly, I have been telling the government that we must have a vision for rural India, which we still don't have. Every department or every ministry is talking only about their own things.
Thank you so much, sir.
And sir, one more thing I want to supplement
please.
here, that apart from MG if suppose those migrant workers, they are having certain different kind of skill set like a mason, plumber kind of thing. Here now government is mostly planning to go for the road repairing, drains, drinking water supply
Yes,
kind
yes,
of
yes.
thing. They can be engaged meaningfully. And because in certain like Mudra scheme, 50,000 provision is there, street vendor, 10,000 scheme are there. And with
Absolutely.
many,
Yes,
recently
yes.
government has, the state government has
Yeah,
announced many schemes, they
yeah,
can take that benefit.
yeah, yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Ramesh, for
Yeah,
adding that. Yes. Yeah.
thank you so much.
So, thank you so much, sir. With this, we would like to come to the conclusion of this talk. We really had a very informative session today, and we got to learn a lot. And especially, I would tell you that while I was a fellow at Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, and I was involved in a project, or I chose to involve myself in a project on informal sector. So I think the MART's model was like a Gita or a Bible for me, and somehow I couldn't connect to you. But today it was a great pleasure to able to talk to you on these subjects, and it was a very intense learning session for us. And we hope that with your blessings and good wishes, we'll be able to take this initiative forward, and will be happy to have you with us for guiding us and to enlighten us with your knowledge in future as well. Thank you so much, sir. Ravi sir, thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Saurabh, for inviting us. Before we close, I just have one question to you.
Yeah.
You were involved with the Smart Cities project.
Yes.
Now, without coming under any pressure from the government or otherwise, if you had to say in one sentence, is the Smart Cities project viable? Is it beneficial? I mean, has it made any difference to any city where this has progressed, if at all?
Yes, in a lot of sense, if you see that, first of all, I was a fellow, and all of the fellows was involved in designing their own projects. So
Uh-huh.
we were mostly involved in designing a project where we can increase the market access for the informal sector. But secondly, what I personally felt, but not as a statement from ministry, that it is trying to improve the ease of living for the citizens,
Hmm.
and a lot of concept like citizen participation, the walkability, your cycling path. Especially when I went to Pune, there was a remarkable change they have brought about in perception of cleanliness, your widening of roadways, the walkability. So these are the kind of good concepts that are coming about. But if we, I think, imagine a smart city to be a very high tech kind of model, so that imagination might not be the reality, or may not be the reality as per the mission. But
Right.
one thing is glad that policy measures are coming to improve uh, cities and bring new concepts. And hopefully, in years to come, we get some good results.
Great, great. That's very good to hear from you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Good night.